John Michael Salvato, and you're watching Inner Alchemy. What happens when we actually begin to understand the principle of cause and effect and how that can impact our magical practice? Well, we're going to talk about that as we continue our 7-part series on the 7 Hermetic Principles with part 6, the principle of cause and effect, when we come back. Hey, welcome back. This is Dr. John Michael Salvato. And as I said, you're watching part 6 in our 7-part series on the Hermetic Principles. This week's program is on the principle of cause and effect. So in the Kabbalion, we read that every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name that we give to law that has not yet been recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be understanding or unpacking the principle of cause and effect. So let's get started by looking at it in practical terms. In practical terms, what the law is saying is that your thoughts, your behaviors and actions create specific effects that manifest and create life as you know it. So every thought that you think, every behavior, every action has an impact in the creative process of your experience of life. Now, if you're not happy with the effects that you have manifesting in your life, the effects that are expressing themselves, then you've got to change the causes that created them in the first place. See, far too often we're taught that if you're not happy with something, then you focus on creating something different, and then your focus is simply on that something different, and you haven't looked at the root cause. If a person constantly gets a sore throat, we would think that instead of just giving them throat lozenges and throwing antibiotics at it, we would find out why they keep getting the sore throat. What is their exposure? In the metaphysical world, our exposure are the causes that create the experience that we have. So if you change your actions, you change your life. Transform your thoughts, and you create a brand new destiny. So another word for this principle of cause and effect is determinism. Causality is known in some circles, especially scientific circles, as the philosophy of determinism, which says that there's a genetic connection, an origin connection that exists between a phenomena through which one thing, which is the cause, under certain conditions gives rise to something else. So there's your cause, the causes of that thing, and effect. In essence, causality is the generation and determination of one phenomena by another. The Buddhists would call this an interdependent origin of all phenomena. For us as metaphysicians and alchemists, we remember the adage, as above, so below, that we began this series on. The alchemist recognizes that the principles of the Hermetic principles are all universal. Therefore, mastery requires understanding how this principle functions in the higher realms as well as within our own mundane physical plane. And unless we can understand that, then we're not truly understanding the law. Remember, if a law is universal, it applies as above, so below. So the whole of humanity's history and the history of the birthing of the cosmos itself knows no exception to the principle of determinism. Otherwise, we could not call it a universal law. So every thought creates an effect. Every word that we speak creates an effect. Every action that we take creates an effect. To become a master of our destiny, we have to master conscious creation. So that means breaking apart the awareness that as above, so below. So we start with as above. There are causations that exist outside the realm of our human control, such as conditions created by a plurality of causes in other realms or planes of existence, things that we have no control over, which contribute to the origination of phenomena within and across lifetimes. So we have to recognize that that everything that's happening is creating causes and having effect. So there are things that are outside of our control that are creating causes. We are creating causes. Those around us are creating causes. But if we understand that in the higher realms, that same law applies, that there are a myriad of causes that are bringing into effect the phenomena that we experience. Now, that must mean that there is some point at which where we connect to that universal source, that universal spirit, that universal power or energy, that we can say so below. You see, when we cultivate awareness that extends to all time and space, then the first thing we recognize is that the witch's magic operates outside of time and space. And therefore, through personal mastery, through our practice, we develop and cultivate greater awareness, greater mastery, greater conscious creation. We're able to create the causes and conditions that transmute the previous causes to manifest new outcomes. So I don't have to have been in control of those causes outside of my life, in other realms, in higher realms, lower realms. I don't have to be in control of them. I simply have to be aware of the causes that created conditions that we're now experiencing. And by doing that, because of my own personal mastery, my own awareness, recognizing my true nature and knowing that I am the master of conscious creation in my life, then I can create new causes to counter or transmute the things that have been caused by those that I have no control over. See, that's what personal mastery is. That's the whole purpose of this 7-part series, is beginning to challenge you and me to recognize that personal mastery is possible. So here's how personal mastery applies to this principle, as we've talked about in each of the previous 5 segments. In this segment, we're really stepping things up a bit. We're taking on greater responsibility. So we have to say, when we experience a phenomena, what's creating this? What is the thought that's or put better, what is the thought that we're entertaining now creating? What thought led to the creation of something that we're experiencing? Maybe something takes us aback. But what was the thought that created that? And what is the thought that I'm thinking right now doing to create? How will my words affect the situation? My response to the stimuli around me, to the conditions around me. What words am I choosing to speak? And what effect is that going to have? And then what action can I take to change the outcome? So what does that mean for us as witches, as practitioners of the magical arts, or sorcerers, however you want to call yourself? What do we do? How does this personal mastery manifest? Well, it manifests in 3 primary ways. When we say, what is this thought creating? That's about intentionality. That's about coming to terms with the 100% responsibility each of us holds for our intentions, for our thoughts. That's thought mastery. The second step on how will my words affect the situation, well, that's conscious spellcrafting. And quite often, we think that spells are something that we do when we light the candle and sit in front of our altar to affect a certain change. But the truth of the matter, from my perspective, is that at every moment we are consciously creating with our words. We are spellcrafting in every moment of our lives. And that third step, what actions can I take to change the outcome? Well, if our intention is under our mastery, and we recognize that our words are continuously creating, then the actions that we can take as witches, as practitioners, is the creation of talisman, the mastery of herbology, understanding the spirits of the plants and the herbs and how they can help us in our endeavors, and then spirit work in general, recognizing the spirit of everything, the spirit of life itself, in all aspects and all elements within the cosmos. Remember that as witches, we don't need to fix problems. What we do is we fix the energy around the problem, and then the problem itself will begin to manifest those changes to create something new. So when somebody comes to me and says, oh, can you create a spell for my relationship that's really strained? Well, I certainly wouldn't ever endeavor to take away somebody's free will, first of all. Second, I'm not interested in controlling other people and forcing outcomes. But what I can do is look at the energy around that relationship, and I can use the craft to shift that energy, to address problems in that energy around the situation. And then I can release it and know that my conscious creation will begin to manifest in my experience. See, I'm not trying to change someone else's experience. I'm only trying to change mine. When I know a greater truth about something, that changes the experience for everyone around me. So I address the problem with the energy, and the relationship begins to course correct itself. I address the energy around an illness, and the body begins to course correct and heal itself. That's what it's all about. That's how we reclaim our power. And that's the principle of cause and effect, taking 100% responsibility to the next level.